Hello, this is a short discussion about exchange rates and the impact of appreciation and depreciation in the market. We're going to do a couple of quick problems. This one won't take very long. Here, let's say that we have a situation in a market where we are trying to determine our trade surplus and our trade deficit. Now, keep in mind that when we calculate our deficits or our surpluses in trade, we look at two different types of goods. We look at actual goods, tangible goods, and we look at services. So here we have a situation, and this country exports goods of 750 billion. They export 240 billion of services. They import 920 billion in goods, and they import 20 billion in services. So what we're going to do is we're going to first determine our goods net export. So we're going to take our goods exports minus our goods imports. That gets us our net goods exports. So 750 of exports minus 920 of imports. We have a net goods export of negative 170 billion. Now we'll figure out our goods trade deficit or surplus. Here we have exports of services of 240 billion and imports of services of 20 billion. So I set up my net export equation. That would be our services exports minus the services imports. I have 240 billion of services exports minus 20 billion of services imports. That gives me a net services export of 220 billion. Now to get my total trade deficit or surplus, all I do is add the two together, and so combine the two together. So here what I do is I find that my net goods export is negative 170, my net services export is a positive 220, and I have a total trade surplus here of 50 billion. The next thing we're going to look at is what happens if I'm traveling or if someone I know is traveling. How do we convert currency into the value for goods or services in another country? Well, in this situation, let's say we have a friend who's from India and they are visiting us. And we know from our exchange rate that it takes 63 rupee to buy $1. Now, your friend wants to purchase a book and she wants to know how many rupee it will cost her to purchase that book. Well, we know that it costs 63 rupee to buy $1. The book is $20, and so what we do here is very simple. We take the $20 for the US dollars times the 63 rupee for each single US dollar, and we find out that that book will cost her 1,260 rupee. Now let's say that you decide to visit your friend in India. And again, just for simplicity, let's assume that the exchange rate hasn't changed and it's still 63 rupee to buy $1. How many US dollars will it cost to buy 1 rupee? Well, remember what we're going to do is we're going to use that inversion approach. I'm going to take 1 over 63, the inversion, and that tells me that 1 rupee will cost 0.016 US dollars. Now, once I have this, then I can use that information to help me make purchasing decisions. So here, let's say that I am looking at a shawl in an Indian market, and I see that it is 700 rupee. And I want to purchase it, but I want to know how many US dollars it's going to cost me to actually purchase the shawl. Well, I know that it's going to take 700 rupee, and I know that the converted US cost for a rupee is 0.016 cents. I multiply that out and I find out that it's going to cost me $11.20 in US dollars to buy the shawl. The next thing we're going to look at is a pretty quick approach at just looking at what happens in the world market in the short run, midterm, and then long run in a free-floating market when something causes the dollar, the US dollar, to appreciate in the world market. And this we're looking at the flexible exchange rate system. There are no pegs and there are no managed floats. So here, something causes the US dollar to appreciate. Now when this happens, US foreign goods are less expensive to US consumers, and US consumers are eager to purchase more and more of them. Now, when this occurs, our imports will increase and net exports will decrease. Now, as this is going on, importers, as I said, demand more currency. That is, in order to purchase foreign goods, we have to convert US dollars to the different foreign currencies. And so we demand more of those currencies, and in the midterm, those currencies start to appreciate. Now, as those foreign currencies appreciate, American goods become less expensive, and other nations are now able to afford to purchase them. And so what happens is we begin to have an equaling out as we get toward a longer term. And then eventually, importers demand more dollars in the very long term, causing the dollar to appreciate because US goods have fallen in value and they've become a good deal in this step here. So, and then that takes us back to the beginning where we see a cycle of appreciation again. But notice that it is kind of a circular flow. US dollar appreciates, that makes us more likely to buy imports. In order to buy imports, we have to buy foreign currencies. As we buy foreign currencies, that appreciates their currency. As their currency appreciates, it makes US goods less expensive to them. And so then they're going to start demanding more US dollars, and as they demand more US dollars, then it causes our dollar to appreciate, and we run into an ever circle up and down process. And with that, we can just do this in reverse and say, well, okay, so what happens if we start with the US dollar depreciation? Well, something happens, causes the US dollar to fall relative to other currencies in the world, and foreign goods are then more expensive, and Americans buy less of them. But the thing is that when the dollar is down, we're buying less imported goods, but our American goods are less expensive to the rest of the world, so they're buying more of them. So our imports are down, but our exports are up. Americans demand less foreign currency, they begin to depreciate. The other foreign currencies depreciate. American goods are more expensive, and foreign nations start to buy less of them as the their own currencies begin to depreciate. That causes American goods to be more expensive to them. And then finally, foreign importers begin to demand less dollars, and by demanding less dollars, that causes the US dollar to depreciate, and we move back into the cycle again. So use this logic process to answer a couple of problems on the worksheet. Have a good day.